Hi, I'm Tim Evans with CrackEraser.com. We've got about a 14-inch crack in this Nissan Quest van that we're going to repair with our do-it-yourself kit. We're going to use the 2-drill method so we don't have to use a crack expander. I think that's going to be easier for some of the people than drilling and tapping a bullseye like you see on our other videos, because that takes some practice and a little skill. So this is just going to be an alternate method to show you how you could repair this crack. Inside your kit, you're going to have your crack eraser tool, tri-cup tool, your injector, piston. You're going to have 2 suction cup grease. You're going to have your bullseye tapper, which we're not going to use on this one, but your crack expander, which we shouldn't need on this method. Your adjusting bolt, your razor blade. You've got 2 injector seals, 2 injector piston seals, cure tabs, your 20 chip resin and your C crack resin, and your training DVD, and a drill bit. We've already put a drill bit in this drill. So with this method, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to drill the crack just past the tip. I'll take my shade. It's pretty bright out today.
I'm going to get on the inside so you can see a little better.
Easier. We're going to drill it down to the plastic. We're not going to push very hard because we don't want the crack to grow as we're drilling it. It's pretty warm out today. They can hear me, I think. It's pretty warm out today, and so the crack might try to extend if we put much pressure on the glass. In fact, sometimes it's a good idea to run the air conditioning on defrost to cool the crack down.
You'll be able to feel a difference when you get down to the plastic layer. It'll go much quicker than compared to while you're on the going through the glass.
We're going to be about 10 minutes. We're filming this crack, and then we can do this.
How late are you going to be here today?
Oh, how late you going to stay today, Shane?
Probably till 5.
Till 5.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Okay, so then we're going to go back. I'm thinking about right here, So you have to put your injector O-ring on, which I'm going to set this on your lap. So you just take this O-ring and you kind of just hook it into the groove and just peel it over there. And then we put just a little drop of resin. If you try to stick it in there dry, sometimes it can pull it off and damage it. So put a little bit of resin in there, and that'll slide right in there. Then we're going to take our injector seal. Hard to get out of there. And that you just, oh, I guess I'm going to get too close.
There you go.
That you just kind of put it at an angle, and then you just kind of work that little ridge in. Yeah, there's a little bit of resin in here. Hold on one second. We used this tool a little earlier and a little bit of resin got under there. Normally you should clean your tool with rubbing alcohol each time. Okay, so once you pop that in there, it'll stay in there. And we're going to thread it into the crack eraser tool. We're going to thread our adjusting bolt into there. But just a little bit. We don't want them sticking out because we've got to suck this down to the windshield. Want to make sure that your suction cups are up tight on the tool. Do you have gloves in your truck, Shane?
Yeah, they're going to be in the box.
Okay.
Underneath the paper towels.
It's a good idea to wear gloves when you're doing this, and if there's a pair of gloves comes in your kit. These are a little big for me. Then you're going to take your suction cup lubricant and you're going to use a fairly liberal amount of it because we want the tool to slide. Then we're going to suck it down onto the windshield. Right over the crack, or I guess you can explain it too, Shay. We're going to go slide along there to where it slides fairly easily.
You're going to pre-grease your track where you're going to slide your tool so you can move it easily while you're working on the crack. Then once you've gone back and forth all the way, you can go ahead and set your tool up, adjusting the bottom bolt and your injector so you get enough pressure on there. With cracks, you don't need a lot of pressure because you don't want to put too much to spread the crack.
Yeah, probably about a turn. Once it touches the glass, both the injector and adjusting bolt. And you can have the rear just slightly higher. And we're going to slide over onto the drill hole.
The first one.
We're going to use the 20 resin, the chip resin.
With it being a dry tool, you want to use enough resin, so you'll probably want to use 4 or 5 drops. Then go ahead and once you're ready, go ahead and start putting a little bit of pressure on there with the injector.
Sometimes the resin will run up to the other drill hole, sometimes it won't. So now we're just going to switch over to the other hole.
Trying to get the right angle here. You can see it's filling ahead, so it is working.
And that should fill back to the other hole. It might be a little hard to see, did it? Yeah, it did. And then you can see it came out about an inch. That should have kept going, but it didn't. Okay.
And so it wasn't quite wanting to fill as you went over on top of the crack where it was filled to. So you can go back over your drill hole, leave it on there a little bit longer, giving it a little extra pressure if you need to. Careful not to press too hard, because again, too much can end up causing it to shoot past your furthest drill hole. As you can see, it is filling further out. You can see a little better with that glare.
It's a pretty tight crack, so we may have to even drill it again if it won't start again right there. So it's came down to about there, so maybe 2 inches. But some of them can be tight, even clear down to there. So sometimes what you can do is just let it sit a little bit, let it cure a little bit in the sun, and then we'll start again and take it from there. if we were using the crack expander, we would use that to kind of spread the crack. And that's one thing we could have done. We could have put the crack spreader on here and had it pushing a little on this. Problem is, when we film the videos, you can't see very well around it, so we're trying to do this where you can see it and still understand the concepts of what we're doing. We usually get at least one fire truck coming by when we're filming, it seems like. Or a Harley or a big diesel truck. Today it's a fire truck.
Doesn't take very long for that resin to cure, a couple minutes. There it goes.
If it didn't start again, we would drill another hole right there, just a little bit into the air, not in the part where it's filled, but just like maybe 2 or 3/16 down in the air pocket. But this one started to go again. Now we're down to the gappy part. You can talk about
Yep.
that.
So the cracks get gappier as they go towards the edge. And once they get to that gappier part, you'll want to switch over to the crack resin, because if you're using the chip resin, it could break loose later on because it's not thick enough. So you're going to switch over to the crack resin by backing off the pressure off the piston and then backing the injector off. It'll let all the chip resin run out. So once all the chip resins ran out, you'll go ahead and put some crack resin up in the top part, and fill the rest of it.
And you're going to need quite a few, maybe 7-8 drops, because it's going to go fast from here.
And if
Maybe up to 10 drops.
yeah, about 7 to 8 drops of the crack resin, because it, like we were saying, it gets gappy. It'll come out the bottom sometimes. You can also use more if you need to.
And if you can't put the piston in because you put a little too much like I did, just hold pressure down with your thumb. You don't have to actually contact the threads. And that'll be providing the pressure till we can get down in this part, and then I can thread it in a little.
Yeah, just to say that one more time, if there's too much resin in there when you put in your 7-8 drops worth, if you're not able to tighten down the threads, you can end up using your hand just to hold it and get your pressure. You don't have to actually screw it down.
And now we're going to cover it up for just a little bit. We don't want it to start curing just yet. In fact, if you're working where you can cover the repair up as you're injecting it, if you're working where you can cover the repair up as you're injecting it, that's great. And then let the sun see it. The problem is if you try to get in the vehicle and move it, then it can flex the suspension, which will flex the crack. One way around that is you can take the cure tabs and the crack resin, or pit filler if you have it, and you can put resin right on top of the crack and put a cure tab, and you keep buttoning them up all the way across. That should keep it from drawing air if it does flex, and then you could move it out into the sun. But I prefer you don't move the vehicle like my photographer here, or videographer is. He's going to stay in the vehicle because we don't want to disturb the vehicle. And do it that way. So it'd be nice if you could have it covered up, do all the injecting, and then uncover it. But if you are working out in the sun like we are today, and you get it injected, you can throw something on there for 2 or 3 minutes. That's just going to let the resin continue to create the bond. There's acrylic acid in the resin, and it's got to microscopically go in there and grab on. So that takes just a little bit, but not long. Maybe a couple minutes, 3 minutes. You could leave it 5 minutes, wouldn't hurt anything. For this, to speed this up a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and let it cure now. I think we're going to get a really good repair though.
Should.
Yeah. Talking about how you release this but don't disturb it, Shane.
Yeah, so when you're getting ready to take your tool off, back off the pressure off the injector by backing the piston off. Then you'll want to take something and put it underneath the suction cup so you're easing the tool off. You don't want to yank it off. you want to ease the tool off, you can use, whether it's your tapper, needle, put that under the suction cup, screwdriver, kind of whatever you see that would work well.
Main thing is just don't grab the tool and yank it, because you'll disturb the crack if it isn't cured.
Almost done. Just make sure it's got enough time to cure. You can use your crack resin or pit filler if you've got pit filler. Put it over your 2 drill holes, put your cure tab on top of it, give that a little while to cure. That's going to fill in those holes where you drilled to start filling the crack.
Starting to cure. Oh, help, I flipped my razor blade around. I thought, wow, that one's really getting dull. Yeah, the heavier resin's starting to cure already.
You'll be able to tell when that crack resin's done curing under the cure tab. You'll hear it start to peel apart from the cure tab. That means it's cured. Using a razor blade to scrape off all the excess resin and grease works really well to get it cleaned up. If you use paper towels, it takes a little while. That stuff likes to smear around. And you can kind of see on the McDonald's building there's a little bit of just a small hint of a glare, which is normal. You are going to get just a little bit when it's fixed. And I guess we had one of the drill holes didn't fill properly, so we're just going to refill it with that crack resin, put a cure tab on top of it again.
But that did pretty well.
When they're newer cracks, they turn out better. They don't have as much dirt down inside of them. So if you've got one that's only a couple days old or a couple weeks old, usually turn out really nice. If they're a couple months,
We had a little teeny bit of air where we transitioned, where we stopped, and that's the one thing about injecting partway and stopping. That can happen a little bit. So when we do them professionally, we flex them a little and we just run the whole thing. But since people are having trouble drilling and tapping the bullseye and flexing, because that's a skill, that takes some practice, I wanted to show this method to see that you can get a good repair, and it's a little more forgiving because you basically just drill into the plastic and let it inject as much as it can and take your time and let it cure. So it's more forgiving. I think this might be a good method for some people.
Alright, and that's the final product.
I'm Tim Evans with crackeracer.com. You can go to the website, or you can email us at info@crackeracer.com, or you can give us a call at 719-331-5966. I hope this information will help you save some of your cracked windshields with our do-it-yourself kit, which you can find on crackeracer.com. Thank you.